Yeah, Reaper's made a good point that it's nice that all NSO positions can call penalties. I definitely think historically there was a theory that refs were more important than NSOs, but I think we're moving away from that, which is good to see there. We're both as important as each other, and just because we're wearing black and they're wearing stripes doesn't make a difference. I've called plenty of penalties that are not necessarily relevant to my position, but if I've seen something, and depending on the context, that the refs have backed me, that I had a better view of the penalty than they did, and they've issued the penalty. So, you can definitely help your refs out as well, because it's a lot easier, I think, to see something when you're not trying to skate around in a circle. And when you're stationary, you can see things sometimes better than the refs can. So sometimes in an official review, I've been brought in and asked my opinion of what I've seen, and I've given my opinion and it's led to a penalty. So definitely, I think it's good that we're moving towards that. Definitely. Right, so Twixie's made an amendment to what I've said, so thank you, Twixie. So what he said is, if someone who isn't the captain or alt successfully calls a timeout, that comes under delay of game these days. A legal procedure is for when the captain or alt calls it while not wearing the C or A. So that's something I didn't know, so thank you, Twixie. So we've been talking, I think John mentioned about wearing the period clock around the neck, and that's what I missed, so thank you, John. That is a good idea. If you don't want to be wearing it around both wrists, you can wear it around your neck as well. So that's another good one. So Scotty's asked about being conscious about the number of skaters on the track when you're calling 5 seconds. I wouldn't say it's necessarily your responsibility. I think as officials, we all help each other out, don't we? So I think if you're able to have an idea of how many players are on track, because sometimes these things can get missed by refs. So if you can communicate that and help them out, then definitely I do try and keep an eye out, particularly if there's 2 pivots, for example, with a pivot in the box, or if there's an extra player because I've not realised another player's got into the box in the line-up period time. Sometimes you can communicate that while you're waiting to say 5 seconds. If it's getting towards 5 seconds, I wouldn't necessarily get involved at that point, because you've got something. I would prioritise your actual role of saying the 5 seconds and starting the jam over dealing with skater issues, but it's definitely something where you can definitely help out. So Mark said he's got some stopwatches. Yeah, Mark, can you show everyone your stopwatches? That'd be really helpful.
What were you? I wasn't sure if people were looking to see like how you hold them or just the stopwatch itself. What were you looking for? All. I do the around the neck situation. So I have the period clock counting down around my neck so that I can let it go when I do the 5. And then I have the other one, I just kind of wrap it around my wrist. So that even when I let it go, it's still not that far. And then, so this is my jam clock. And then I am lucky enough where I can fit both stopwatches, one on top of each other, and I can reach both of the buttons. I know not everybody like has stopwatches that fit in their hand that easily and stuff, but that is one option. So like when I'm starting the game, I can just start my jam clock and go off of whatever I want on this. So if I say 5 seconds, I can watch this one and start my period clock when I blow the whistle, and I know to just add 2 minutes to whatever the jam clock read. Did that make sense? Like if I blow the whistle when my jam clock says 5, I'll know that the period clock has to say 2:05 in case there's an issue with the scoreboard. But like Jack was saying, just go by the scoreboard. But yeah, so I just hold it like this in between each of the jams. When I call the 5 seconds, I just let go of the period clock, do the 5, tweet, and then when the jam starts, you can even just hold it the whole time if you want. But I like that because you can do the 5 without having something in your hand, because that can get awkward. But I know some people who just have another clock the same way in this hand, and they let it go to call the 5. So it's whatever's most comfortable for you, really. Was that helpful? Was that what people were asking about? Oh yeah, one's the period clock, counts the full 30 minutes of the period, and one is for each jam and the lineup time between each jam. So your period clock should be counting down. Your jam clocks usually are counting up, but you can kind of do it however you want with that too.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. I couldn't hear what you were saying, unfortunately, but that looked really good. So thank you for that.
Can anybody hear me? Okay.
You've got to love technology, haven't you? When it works, it's great. So thank you, Mark. Yeah. So somebody on Facebook's asked what each stopwatch does and what it's used for. It's a good question. So we generally have 2 stopwatches. First one is to time the full period, so the 30-minute period, assuming it's a standard game. And then your second stopwatch you'll use for both the jam, so timing up to the 2 minutes, and the lineup period. So you'll reset the second stopwatch every 2 minutes or however long the jam is, and then every 30 seconds. So you use that to know when your 5 seconds is up. That's why we talk about having the other one in the other hand, because you're going to use that a lot more than the period clock. The period clock's only going to stop when there's a timeout or official review. Someone's asked as well, was Kathy, about how to decide if you go straight to 5 seconds, shortening the lineup time after an official timeout or review. I think it's important to know your refs and know who you're working with, because that will determine that. Some refs will give you a thumbs up or a signal that they're ready to go at the 5 seconds. Some will trust you to make your own decision and go with that. Generally, what I will do is I will make sure that everybody's in position. You've got your 7 refs there. Your players are on track, ready to go. If everyone's ready to go, I'll start the jam. If people are taking the full 30 seconds, which is their prerogative there, then I will wait the 30 seconds and go to 5 seconds at 25 seconds there. But again, say if a ref has a preference, I would go with what the head ref says there. But generally, we all want to just keep the roller derby going there. So if we can go to 5 seconds earlier, I think everyone wants that, their players and everyone included. So we'll generally try and keep gameplay moving, which I think is the main role of why you're there as jam timer. Yeah, Twixie said the same as me, that the ref will generally give you a nod when they're ready, and some will leave it to discretion. Yes, that's perfect. So Dropkick has asked about if you reset the jam clock after lineup time or run the clock to 2:30. I reset it after each jam, so I wouldn't go to 2:30. I would always have the jam period time and then the 30 seconds for the lineup there. I wouldn't run it the full time, but I guess that's personal preference. If you prefer to. It's okay if you do 2:30, but if you've got a shorter jam and then you forget what time the jam's finished on, you're then doing maths again, aren't you? So my preference would be to reset it. And I think once you've jam timed a few times, it's almost automatic that you hear the 4 whistles and you do the stop jam, restart, start jam. It's almost like an automatic thing at this point for me. So, and then I just check that obviously it has restarted correctly. Yeah, McG said the same as me. They do it after the jam and after the 30 seconds. Oh, yeah, No Wheels has asked a really good question. Do you have a fancy trick to prevent accidentally resetting the period clock, aside from blocking it up with tape? He seems to do a lot of that. I haven't got a fancy trick. I have used the tape before. The tape is quite a good thing, because you'll feel the tape and think, I don't want to press that button. It's a bit rudimentary, but sometimes it does help. Generally, I just restart the clock and then panic. I'm joking, I don't really panic. But it has happened. I was jam timing a few weeks ago, reset the period clock. Nobody died. But yeah, it does happen. I think it's just about how you adapt to the situation. Because I've reset it and nobody's known I've reset it, because nobody's looking at your stopwatch, no one's looking over your shoulder seeing what you're doing. As long as you know what you're doing, you can kind of adapt to it. So I'll start the period clock again with 8 minutes, for example, left on the clock. I'll just restart it, and I know I've only got to go to 8 minutes. Oh, right. So what Kathy said is that they have a jam watch with a lap mode, so they don't have to stop, reset, restart. They just start a new lap, which helps them a lot. So that's a good idea. Yeah, if you've got something like that where you'd have to press less buttons, that's another option as well. And Reaper's come up with a great point here, that it's supposed to be fun and no one should be stressed doing a hobby. Definitely all about that. Yeah. If you're coming back after roller derby and you're stressed, and you've not had fun, then why are we doing it exactly? So definitely just have fun with it. Everybody's going to make mistakes. I think that's the important thing to know, that you're not the only one that's going to worry about these things. If you make a mistake, it's a good thing, because you can learn from it. But also, it's not the end of the day. Nobody's going to die because you reset your period clock, or you do your whistles wrong, or you stop the jam after 2 minutes and 30. I've been there when there's been 3-minute jams. It happens. We've all been there. Just waiting to see a few people typing. Yeah, it wasn't me, but I think the skaters got to the point where they were like, is this jam still going? It was at practice. And yeah, it'd been 3 minutes. So yeah. Bit of endurance practice for them. That is true. John says a lot of skaters feel like the jams last 3 minutes anyway, which is a good point. So Reaper's asked, do you feel like the jam timer is a good job for people that like to be organised? Yeah, I guess so. I think NSOs generally are quite organised, aren't they? I think for somebody to want to go to a sports hall and write down numbers, time penalties, that type of thing as a hobby, you kind of got to be that kind of person generally. I think it's a good for people that like to be a little bit bossy. I like to shout at people. I like to blow whistles at people. I think that's kind of a bit of a bossy kind of thing. Yeah, I think jam time is for everybody really. I don't think there's a type of person that can't jam time. As long as you can get over that initial worry, I guess, and confidence. I think, as long as you persevere with it and don't let the concerns overwhelm you, you'll be flying. So McG, I'm just going to read what they put. So they said, if it helps between jams in line-up time, do what I call the John Travolta Pulp Fiction meme, which I'm not sure what the John Travolta Fiction medium is, but look over to one bench and then to the other bench, then back to the first bench, then back again. If neither bench is showing signs of timeout or official review, then head to position and get ready to call 5 seconds. So I like that. I think, McGee's sent the meme. Love it. Yes, look over. I think generally do have a bit of a I think of the words. I do have a bit of a routine when it comes to the 30 seconds of, 30 seconds sounds like not very long, but actually when you are jam timing, it does feel like quite a while. So, checking in with the refs, checking in with the NSOs in the middle, and then heading out to the line about 10 seconds out when you're ready to go for the 5 seconds. No Wheel said someone who hates to have eyes everywhere might not like the position that much though. Yeah, I think this is why a lot of people don't like jam timing, is they feel that all eyes are on them. And it is quite a visual position. So I can understand why people do worry about that. But honestly, if you think about people going to roller derby, they don't go to watch the NSOs as much as I like to think that they do. It's people don't notice you as much as you think they will. And I think definitely that does hold a lot of people back. A lot of shy people might not want to jam time. But at the end of the day, you're all there to facilitate roller derby. As long as roller derby happens and it flows, that's all we care about at the end of the day, isn't it? Right, yeah, so John's asking about where to stand once the jam starts. So generally I'll move into the middle of the track as much as I can. Not in the middle of the track, the middle of the centre of the track. And stand. It depends what's in the centre really. If there's a whiteboard there, I might stand next to the whiteboard, out of the way. Make sure I've got a good view of the scoreboard, depending on where the scoreboard is. Just stand as far out of the way as I can really. Yeah, I think the big thing when you're getting out of the way is watching out for the front IPR or the jammer refs, particularly if it's a pivot line start. Sometimes you'll have them coming close to you quicker than you'd like. But yeah, just make sure you're getting out of the way of them. Sometimes you've got the photographers to contend with as well. Depending on where they're stood as well. So it's good to have an idea of where everyone is before the jam starts, so you can move out of the way. Yeah, and McGee said a good point as well. There's nothing more perfect than shouting 5 seconds and there being a perfect quietness in the hall as everyone awaits your jam start whistle. Definitely is a good feeling there when the hush comes out, definitely. And Twixie, another good point from them. I tend to keep my eyes on the lead jammer because it helps to anticipate the call off, which is a good point as well, is so that you're ready for the call off and you can reset your clock. And Mark's said that they tend to have their body facing the pack in case of injury or call-off, with head on a swivel following lead jammer, since those are the two main reasons the jam will end. So that's another good point as well. Thank you. Just waiting because there's a few people typing right now. Okay, so Kathy's asking, do you think it's necessary to mirror the call-off whistles as a jam timer? They've heard different opinions on that. I personally don't mirror the calls of the refs, but a lot of people do. I think it's down to personal opinion, what you're comfortable with. Generally, the reason why I don't is because I do a lot of helping out the penalty trackers when I'm jam timing. So I'll be communicating during the jam. So I don't have the whistle in my mouth, but some jam timers will literally just stand there and jam time, and they'll have the whistle in the mouth ready to mirror it back. Vader said that they will repeat the whistles with the refs, but it's natural reaction for them because they ref as well. So that's a good point. If you ref in a NSO, that may make a difference to what you prefer to do. But yeah, there's no right or wrong, I don't think, on that one. It's what works best for you. I do think it looks good when an NSO does that. It does bring you in with the refs, but again, it's not something that I personally do. Anyone have any more questions? Trixie's typing right now. Okay, so Trixie's put the officiating cues document says all officials with whistles should mirror the call off, but it's not really essential. Okay, that's interesting, Trixie, thank you. And then John's asked, are you counting the 5 seconds in your head? I'm unsure when you are resetting the jam stopwatch. No, so I always do the five. I always count the 5 seconds on the stopwatch. So I restart my stopwatch at the end of each jam, and then restart it at the end of the 30 seconds. So on my stopwatch, it's going to count up to 30 seconds, but at 25 seconds, that's when I give the 5 seconds. And then what I will do is, if I'm starting the period and there's a countdown on the scoreboard for the start of the period, I will use the 5 seconds from the scoreboard. If the scoreboard isn't counting down for whatever reason, I will time 5 seconds on my stopwatch before I start the period. So I'll always use the 5 seconds on the stopwatch. I've got another question coming in, so I'm just waiting to see. Yeah, so John's asking, can you describe how and why you'd have to get the official time on the scoreboard changed? Yeah, that's a great question. So when if any timeout will happen, you're going to stop your stopwatch and the scoreboard will stop their time on the scoreboard. Depending on how quick you both are, you might be out. So if the time on the scoreboard is different to yours, then you want to make sure that that's corrected so that everyone's got the same information and that it's correct there. It might be that they're slow or you're slow in calling it. So as I say, you might want to make the period clock go up or down depending on who's actually stopped it at the right time. Yeah, and also, as Mark said there, when the whistles bleed together at the end of the jam there, that it can lead to the not ending the jam at the right time as well there. So that could lead to the difference as well there, which I discussed earlier. Say if there's a small difference between yourself and the scoreboard on the lineup, I'd always go with the scoreboard rather than my clock. But obviously, if it's more than a few seconds, I would go with mine. So that you're not taking too much time off the players there. Yeah, so I do use hand signals for amending the clock. So I do a little circle for up or down, and then how many seconds it is. Mainly I do a bit of movement to try and get the attention of the scoreboard, because sometimes they're not looking at you and they might be talking to the scorekeepers or whatever, so just to try and make sure they've got their attention before I start flashing fingers at them. Yeah, and Twixie's mentioned a good point as well. Sometimes new NSOs don't realise that the jam ends on the fourth whistle, not the first, so this can cause a discrepancy if there's a rookie jam timer or scoreboard operator who doesn't realise that. So yeah, that's another good point from Twixie, so thank you for that. Is there anything else you want me to go through? Any questions you got? Because I think there's quite a lot that we've gone through there that I hadn't even thought about mentioning, so I think you've all got some great points there. Yes, Kathy's asking about ear protection. I did briefly mention that. Yeah, I do have musician earplugs. Definitely recommend wearing ear protection. I would recommend that for any official, to be honest with you, anyone at roller derby, because the whistles are quite harsh. Definitely invest in some ear protection. Thanks, McG, that's really kind of you. So John's asking about people shadowing you. I have had people shadow me before. It's a bit difficult with jam timing to have someone shadow you, really. But definitely I think it has helped people before that, you know, they get to follow you, stand next to you, see exactly what you are doing, and you can explain what you're doing in the moment. I think that is definitely a good idea if you've got the capability to do so, definitely. Because as I say, the big thing with jam timing is definitely confidence. And, you know, it doesn't mean that you've got confidence necessarily, but as long as people think you've got confidence, if you display confidence, people are going to have confidence in you, and nobody knows that you're not confident. A few people are typing. Yeah, so No Wills has made a good point there about asking the head ref first to make sure that they don't like too many NSOs standing in the infield. Yeah, it's a good point to say. We don't want to be filling the infield too much, but as I say, it's important to be training people. So I think if there is a training opportunity, we should be taking that. And as I say, one person shouldn't make a big difference there. Mark said it sounds like the head ref should start training people then. Which I love. So yeah, I think most head refs are pretty good now. I think we're kind of moving away from the old school a lot, in that people will understand that we need to be training people, otherwise you're not going to have NSOs and you're not going to have games. So, you know, the games can't happen without NSOs, and being that jam timer, scoreboard are probably the two hardest to recruit people for, if we're not putting resources into training up people and getting people confident in the role, we're not going to have games because we're not going to have jam timers. Yeah, and Reaper's put, I love to hear that you feel that we're moving forward with NSOs and refs working together, definitely. 100%. I think that's been going on for a while now, but definitely I think that the understanding from refs, in my experience, has been fantastic. And this cat is doing my head in, sorry. Yeah, definitely. It is going great there. And I think, yeah, definitely there's a lot of understanding from refs that maybe when I started in 2015. I think there was definitely more of a divide there that's definitely been brought away from, definitely. You asked for the key. You asked for the Pussycat Reaper, so you got her walking over the keyboard. No, thank you everyone for coming. If anyone does have any more questions for me or wants to reach out at any point, I'm more than happy to answer the questions and run through anything with you. So just reach out anytime. If you think of anything at a later date, definitely just send me a message. Happy to talk about all things roller derby, and I hope that helped. And let me know if anyone hasn't jam timed before. Let me know how you get on, because that would be really good to hear as well. But yeah, definitely any success stories would be great to hear. Hopefully I'll see some of you that I haven't seen before, and hopefully I'll see some of you that I have seen before trackside soon. Bye everyone.